The porcelain cup trembled against my chapped lips as I brought it closer, the steam curling upward like desperate prayers I'd stopped believing in months ago. The tea was cheap, bitter, the kind served in places where nobody asked questions and everyone minded their own survival. Rain hammered against the cafe's fogged windows, each drop a reminder that I had nowhere else to go, no one waiting for me in the storm outside. I was invisible here. Just another exhausted face among the afternoon shadows, nursing a single cup for as long as the waitress's patience allowed. My uniform, a faded blue dress with someone else's name still stitched on the breast pocket, clung damply to my shoulders. The double shift at the hospital had drained whatever fight I'd woken up with that morning. My fingers, raw from bleach and antiseptic, wrapped around the cup's warmth like it was the only comfort left in the world. The cafe smelled of burnt coffee and wet wool, underlaid with something sweetly rotten from the kitchen. I'd grown accustomed to unpleasant smells. Working in the cleaning staff meant intimate knowledge of every bodily fluid, every festering wound, every corner where death lingered before claiming its prize. At least here, the decay was only food. I didn't notice her at first. She materialized beside my table like smoke taking form, an elderly woman wrapped in a cashmere coat that probably cost more than I'd earned in 6 months. Diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists, catching the dim cafe light and throwing it back like accusations. Her perfume arrived before she did. Expensive, floral, completely out of place in this forgotten corner of the city where people like me came to disappear. May I? Her voice carried the texture of old money and older secrets. I blinked, certain she'd meant the question for someone else. Women who wore coats like that didn't speak to women who scrubbed hospital floors, but her dark eyes, sharp despite the web of wrinkles surrounding them, fixed directly on me, waiting. Yes? The word came out as a question because nothing about this made sense. She sat with the grace of someone accustomed to obedience, folding her elegant frame into the chipped chair across from me. Up close, I could see the impeccable makeup, the professional set of her silver hair, the way her manicured hands settled on the table's scarred surface without a trace of disgust. She studied me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "You look like someone who needs opportunity," she said quietly. Not a question. A statement. My throat tightened. I should have stood up, made some excuse, fled back into the rain. Instead, I sat frozen as her gaze traveled over my cheap uniform, my tangled hair still damp from the storm, the circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer could hide anymore. "I'm just having tea," I whispered, hating how my voice cracked. "Alone," she added, and something in that single word felt like being seen for the first time in months. A young woman, clearly educated despite her circumstances, sitting in a place like this at 3 p.m, running from something. Or someone. Heat flooded my cheeks. She couldn't possibly know about Marcus, about the debts he'd left me drowning in, about the men who'd started showing up at my apartment with questions I couldn't answer and threats I couldn't escape. "I don't know what you—" "My name is Victoria Ferrara." She let the name hang between us like a test. I'd heard that name before. Everyone had. Whispered in hospital corridors when certain patients arrived with gunshot wounds that no one reported. Mentioned in news articles that danced around the truth with careful language about prominent business families and unfortunate incidents. The Ferrara family didn't just have power. They were power, the kind that bent laws and broke people without ever appearing in court. My hand shook so badly the tea sloshed over the rim, scalding my thumb. I didn't feel it. "I don't understand why you're talking to me." Fear made my voice small, childlike. Victoria's expression softened, almost maternal, which somehow made her more terrifying. "Because I need something. And you, my dear, are drowning. I can see it in your eyes, that particular desperation of someone who's run out of options and is just waiting to go under." She wasn't wrong. The truth of it sat in my chest like a stone. "I have a son," she continued, her voice dropping lower, forcing me to lean in despite every instinct screaming to run. "Dante, he's complicated. Powerful men often are. He's also being pushed into a marriage arrangement that would be disastrous for our family, a merger with the Costello organization. Do you know what that means?" I shook my head. Mute. War, she said simply. Blood in the streets. My son needs to appear unavailable. Committed to someone else, someone unexpected, someone real enough that the Costellos will back away and look for alliances elsewhere. My brain struggled to process the words. I want you to pretend to be his fiancée. Victoria's smile held no warmth, only calculation. Just for a few weeks, you'll attend some dinners, be seen at his side, play the role of a woman hopelessly in love. In return, I'll pay you $50,000, enough to disappear from whatever trouble is chasing you, enough to start over. $50,000. The number exploded in my mind like a grenade. I could pay off Marcus's debts, could flee to another city, another life, become someone those men would never find, could stop flinching every time footsteps echoed behind me in the dark. Why me? I breathed. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. Victoria's hand moved across the table, her fingers cool and dry as they closed over mine. I know you're educated. I can hear it in how you speak. I know you're desperate. I can see it in how you dress. I know you're alone. No one who had anyone would be here like this. And I know you're brave, because you haven't run screaming yet. She was right about all of it. God help me. She was right. My son is difficult, Victoria continued, her grip tightening fractionally. He won't know about this arrangement at first. He'll believe you're genuine. That's essential. But he's a good man underneath everything else. He won't hurt you. I give you my word. A good man who ran an empire built on violence and fear. The contradiction should have sent me running. Instead, I thought about the envelope of final notices stuffed under my mattress, about the man who'd cornered me in the hospital parking garage last week, his breath hot against my ear as he described exactly what would happen if Marcus's debts weren't paid. I need time to think. You have 30 seconds. Victoria released my hand and leaned back, her expression pleasant but implacable. After that, I walk out of here and you never see me again. You go back to your life, such as it is, and handle whatever's coming on your own. The cafe's walls seemed to press inward. Through the rain-streaked window, I could see the street where I'd walk back to my studio apartment with its broken lock and water-stained ceiling. Could see the future stretching ahead like a prison sentence. More shifts, more fear, more running until there was nowhere left to run. What would I have to do? My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Victoria's smile sharpened. Exactly what I tell you. Wear what I provide. Say what I script. And above all, make my son believe you're desperately, genuinely in love with him. Can you do that? Could I? I'd spent 2 years pretending to love Marcus before I understood what he really was. I'd perfected the art of seeming invisible while cleaning rooms where people screamed and died. I'd learned to wear masks until I couldn't remember my real face. Yes, I whispered. The word felt like stepping off a cliff. Victoria stood with fluid grace, drawing a card from her purse and placing it on the table beside my cold tea. Heavy cream cardstock, embossed with a number and nothing else. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. A car will collect you from your address. She paused, her dark eyes boring into mine. Oh, I already know where you live, dear. I know everything I need to know. Pack light. You'll be moving into one of our properties immediately. Can't have my son's fiancée living in squalor, can we? The casual invasion of my privacy should have terrified me. Instead, I felt nothing but numb acceptance. I'd already made the choice the moment I'd said yes. What's your name? Victoria asked, and I realized with a start that she truly didn't know this one thing. Emma, I said. Emma Chen. Well, Emma Chen. Victoria gathered her coat around herself like armor. Welcome to the family. Don't make me regret this. She glided toward the door, leaving behind only the ghost of her perfume and a card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my trembling hand. Through the window, I watched her slip into a black Mercedes where a driver held the door. A massive man in a dark suit who scanned the street with the alertness of a predator before closing her safely inside. The car disappeared into the rain, and I sat alone with my cold tea and the choice I'd just made. Somewhere in this city, A man named Dante Ferrara, a man I'd never met, whose world I couldn't imagine, had just gained a fiancée he didn't know existed. I picked up the card, feeling its expensive weight against my work-roughened fingers. Tomorrow morning felt both impossibly far away and terrifyingly close. The waitress appeared at my shoulder, her expression sour. "You ordering anything else or just taking up space?" I looked at her. Really looked. At her tired eyes and cheap shoes. At the life we'd shared until 30 seconds ago. Then I stood, left a $5 bill on the table for a $2 tea, and walked out into the rain. For the first time in months, I wasn't running from something. I was running toward it, whatever it was. The storm swallowed me whole, and I didn't look back. The car that arrived at 8:45 the next morning wasn't just expensive. It was a statement. A black Rolls-Royce that looked like it had been carved from obsidian, its windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. Rain still fell in sheets, but the driver who emerged wore a suit that probably cost more than my yearly salary, completely unbothered by the downpour as he held an umbrella and opened the rear door. "Miss Chen," he said. Not a question. His voice carried a faint Italian accent, and his eyes, cold, assessing, swept over me, and the sad collection of my life crammed into 2 battered suitcases. I'd barely slept, had spent the night staring at water stains on my ceiling, trying to convince myself this was real, that I hadn't hallucinated Victoria Ferrara in that cafe. The card on my nightstand proved otherwise, its embossed surface catching the thin morning light like a promise or a threat. "I'm Emma," I said stupidly, then flushed. He obviously knew who I was. He took my suitcases without comment, loading them into the trunk with efficient movements. Up close, I could see the bulge of a weapon beneath his jacket. Not hidden, displayed. A warning to anyone watching. The interior of the car smelled like leather and money. I sank into seats softer than my mattress, my wet clothes immediately staining the pristine surface. A privacy screen separated me from the driver, rising silently as we pulled away from the apartment building I'd called home for 3 miserable years. I watched through the tinted windows as my neighborhood disappeared, the corner store where I bought ramen in bulk, the laundromat where I'd met Marcus, the bus stop where I waited in the cold every morning. All of it sliding away like a life that had belonged to someone else. The drive took 40 minutes, carrying me from the industrial wasteland of the city's edge into neighborhoods I'd only seen in magazines. Trees appeared, then gates. Then mansions set back from manicured streets like secrets. The Rolls-Royce turned into a private drive flanked by stone walls topped with cameras that tracked our progress. The house, no, the estate, rose before me like something from a dream. 3 stories of pale stone and floor-to-ceiling windows, surrounded by gardens that somehow flourished despite the November rain. Fountains, sculptures, terraces leading down to what looked like a private lake. Security personnel moved through the grounds with the casual alertness of soldiers. "We're here, Miss Chen," the driver's voice crackled through a speaker. Here, where people like me didn't belong, where every surface gleamed with wealth I couldn't comprehend. My hands twisted in my lap, fingers finding the rough skin around my nails that I'd worried raw during the sleepless night. The front door opened before I reached it. A woman in a crisp black suit waited, her silver hair pulled into a severe bun. Not Victoria. Someone harder, more angular. "I'm Mrs. Castellano, the house manager," she said, her accent thicker than the driver's. "Ms. Ferrara is waiting for you in the east drawing room. Follow me." I followed her through halls that seemed designed to make visitors feel small. Marble floors that reflected my cheap sneakers, artwork that probably belonged in museums. Ceilings so high my footsteps echoed like gunshots. We passed rooms I couldn't name, each one more opulent than the last. Victoria waited in a room full of cream silk and gold accents, standing before windows that overlooked the gardens. She wore ivory today, perfectly tailored, her jewelry subtle but unmistakably expensive. When she turned, her smile was warm, but her eyes assessed me with the same calculating intensity as yesterday. "Emma. Good. You came, as if there'd been any doubt, as if I'd had any choice. We have much to do and very little time. Dante returns from Chicago tonight." My stomach dropped. Tonight? He's been handling business, a competitor who needed convincing. Victoria gestured to a chair, waited until I perched nervously on its edge. He doesn't know you exist yet. Tonight, you'll meet as if by chance. I'm hosting a small dinner party. 20 guests, all family or close associates. You'll arrive separately, be introduced as the daughter of an old friend. By the end of the evening, Dante will be intrigued. How can you be sure? My voice came out small in this enormous room. Because I know my son. Victoria settled into the chair across from me, her movements fluid as water. He's 34 years old and has never had a relationship last longer than 3 months. He trusts no one, loves nothing but this family, and believes everyone wants something from him. You, my dear, will be different. I do want something from him, I pointed out. $50,000, but he won't know that. Her smile could have cut glass. To him, you'll be genuine, innocent, a woman so far removed from his world that you couldn't possibly have ulterior motives. That's your power, Emma, your authenticity. The irony made my throat tight. Nothing about this was authentic. Now. Victoria stood, smoothing her skirt. Mrs. Castellano will show you to your room. You'll find appropriate clothing in the closet. I took the liberty of having several options prepared in your size. A stylist will arrive at 2 to handle your hair and makeup. We have 6 hours to transform you into someone my son can't ignore. 6 hours to become someone I wasn't. I'd had 2 years with Marcus. Maybe I was better at this than I thought. The room they gave me was larger than my entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, draped in silk the color of champagne. French doors opened onto a balcony overlooking the lake. The bathroom alone could have housed a family, all marble and gold fixtures and a tub deep enough to drown in. The closet held dresses I'd never have dared to touch in stores. Valentino, Chanel, Dior. Names I recognized from magazines and hospital waiting rooms. Evening gowns and cocktail dresses, each one worth more than I'd made in months of scrubbing floors. I stood in the middle of it all, still wearing my damp clothes from this morning, and felt like an imposter, which I supposed was exactly what I was. A knock at the door made me jump. Mrs. Castellano entered without waiting for permission, followed by 2 younger women carrying garment bags and makeup cases. The stylist, Mrs. Castellano announced, and the seamstress, in case alterations are needed. Ms. Ferrara has selected the midnight blue Valentino for tonight. Try it on. They descended on me like surgeons, stripping away my clothes without ceremony, studying my body with clinical detachment. The dress slid over my skin like water. Silk so fine it felt like wearing air. The seamstress circled me, pinning here, marking there, while the stylist examined my hair with an expression of polite horror. "We can work with this," she said finally, in a tone that suggested she'd faced worse challenges. "The bone structure is good. Skin needs work, but nothing that can't be fixed. The hair..." She sighed. "We'll need to cut at least 3 inches. I watched in the mirror as they transformed me. Watched my split ends fall to the floor, watched my face emerge from beneath careful layers of foundation and contour, watched the circles under my eyes disappear. The woman looking back at me had my features, but none of my exhaustion. She looked expensive, untouchable. She looked like she belonged here. Perfect, the stylist declared at 6:30, stepping back to admire her work. Mr. Ferrara won't know what hit him. That's what I was afraid of. The dress clung to curves I didn't know I had, the midnight blue making my skin luminous in the evening light. Heels added 4 inches to my height, making me feel like I was walking on stilts. Diamond earrings, borrowed from Victoria's collection, caught the light with every movement. Mrs. Castellano led me downstairs at 7:15. I could hear voices from the drawing room, the cultured tones of people accustomed to power. My hands trembled, and I pressed them against my sides, trying to steady my breathing. "You'll enter with the Marchetti family," Mrs. Castellano instructed. "They're old friends who actually do have a daughter your age. Stay close to Mrs. Marchetti, follow her lead. Ms. Ferrara will handle the introduction to Mr. Ferrara herself." The Marchettis arrived moments later, an elegant couple in their 60s who greeted me with warm smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. They knew. Of course they knew. Everyone here would be part of Victoria's conspiracy, except the one person who mattered. We entered the drawing room together, and the noise hit me like a wave. 30 people, maybe more, all dressed in clothes that cost more than cars. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Laughter rose and fell like music. But underneath it, I could feel something else. A tension, a watchfulness. These people smiled and chatted while their eyes catalogued threats. "Emma, dear." Victoria materialized at my elbow, resplendent in emerald silk. "Come, there's someone I want you to meet." She guided me through the crowd with a hand on my lower back, steering me like a ship toward a destination I couldn't see. People parted for her automatically, their conversations pausing as we passed. I felt their eyes on me, felt their curiosity like fingers on my skin. Then I saw him. Dante Ferrara stood near the windows with 3 men in dark suits, and even without Victoria's guidance, I would have known him instantly. He commanded the space the way fire commanded oxygen, absolute, undeniable. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp jaw, sharper cheekbones, and eyes so dark they looked black even from across the room. He wore a suit that had been tailored to his body like a second skin, charcoal gray with a black shirt underneath. No tie, a watch that probably cost more than my life glinted at his wrist. But it wasn't the clothes or the looks that froze my breath in my lungs. It was the aura of controlled violence that surrounded him like cologne. This was a man who had killed people. I knew it the way I knew my own name, Dante. Victoria's voice carried that maternal warmth again, but firmer now, commanding. "Come meet Emma Chen. Her father and I go way back. She's just moved to the city." He turned, and the full force of his attention landed on me like a spotlight. Those dark eyes traveled over me slowly, missing nothing. The dress, the shoes, the borrowed diamonds, the way my pulse hammered visibly in my throat. His expression remained perfectly neutral, but something flickered in his gaze. Interest, maybe. Or suspicion. "Emma." His voice was deep, rough around the edges like gravel wrapped in velvet. He didn't offer his hand. "Welcome." "Thank you." I'd meant to sound confident, but it came out breathless. "Your mother has been very kind. She has her moments." The corner of his mouth lifted fractionally. Not quite a smile, but close. "What brings you to our fair city?" The lie Victoria had prepared sat ready on my tongue. A fresh start. Sometimes you need to leave everything behind to find yourself. Something in his expression shifted, became more intent. Running from something? My heart stuttered. Towards something, I corrected, meeting his eyes despite the fear singing in my veins. There's a difference. For a moment, the noise of the party faded. There was only him, only those black eyes studying me like I was a puzzle he needed to solve. Then Victoria laughed, breaking the spell. "Emma's an artist," she said smoothly. "Painting, primarily. She's looking for inspiration. Is that so?" Dante's gaze hadn't left my face. "What do you paint?" "Things that hurt," I said honestly, because some part of me needed to tell him at least one truth, things that bleed. His smile, when it came, was slow and dangerous. "Then you've come to the right place." Dinner was an exercise in controlled chaos disguised as elegance. I sat 3 seats away from Dante, close enough to feel his presence like heat from a flame, far enough that I couldn't hear his private conversations. Victoria had orchestrated the seating with military precision, me between an elderly gentleman who spoke only Italian and a woman dripping in diamonds who asked intrusive questions with a smile. The dining room could have hosted royalty. Crystal chandeliers threw prismatic light across a table that stretched for miles, set with china so delicate I was afraid to touch it. 7 courses appeared like magic, each one a work of art I barely tasted. My stomach was too tight with nerves, too aware of Dante's eyes finding me across the table every few minutes. He didn't stare. That would have been crude. Instead, his gaze would land on me during natural pauses, when someone made a joke, when wine was poured, when the conversation lulled. Each time, I felt it like a physical touch, like fingers trailing down my spine. And each time, I forced myself not to look away, to meet those black eyes with something I hoped resembled confidence rather than terror. "So, Emma," the diamond woman purred, her accent thick as honey, "Victoria says you're an artist. How fascinating. Have you sold any pieces? The question was a trap. I could feel it in how the conversations around us quieted fractionally, in how even the elderly Italian gentleman turned to listen. A few, I lied, remembering the paintings I'd abandoned in Marcus's apartment. Angry slashes of color that meant nothing to anyone but me. Nothing significant. I paint for myself, mostly. Therapy more than commerce. Therapy. The woman's smile sharpened. How modern. And what do you need therapy for, dear? You're so young. Life, I said simply, taking a sip of wine I didn't want. Isn't that enough? Laughter rippled down the table. The woman's smile froze, caught between amusement and insult. But from the corner of my eye, I saw Dante's mouth curve. A real smile this time, brief as lightning but unmistakable. The meal continued. Conversation swirled around me in English and Italian, sometimes switching mid-sentence as if to exclude outsiders. I caught fragments, mentions of shipments and territories, of names spoken with respect or contempt, of money moving in shadows. This wasn't just a dinner party, it was a strategy session disguised as social niceties. When dessert arrived, something elaborate involving chocolate and gold leaf, Victoria rose with her wineglass. "A toast," she announced, her voice cutting through the noise. The room fell silent instantly, every face turning toward her. To family, to loyalty, and to new beginnings. Her eyes found mine across the table, and I understood. This was the moment, the announcement. But before Victoria could continue, Dante stood. The movement was casual, but it commanded attention, the way a gun being cocked commanded attention. Everyone froze. "To my mother," he said, his voice carrying that rough edge that made my pulse skip. "Who always knows exactly what she's doing, even when the rest of us don't." His gaze locked on mine as he said it, and something in those black eyes told me he knew. Not everything, maybe, but enough to be suspicious, enough to be dangerous. I raised my glass with everyone else, the crystal trembling against my lips as I drank. The wine tasted like ashes. After dinner, the party migrated to a terrace overlooking the gardens. Heaters fought against the November chill, creating pockets of warmth among the cold. I stood at the stone railing, grateful for a moment alone, watching rain-heavy clouds obscure the stars. Running away again? His voice came from directly behind me. Close enough that I could smell him, expensive cologne layered over something darker, earthier. Gunpowder, maybe. Danger. Definitely. I turned to find Dante less than 2 feet away, his suit jacket abandoned somewhere inside, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars. He held 2 glasses of cognac, offering one without asking if I wanted it. "Just getting air," I said, accepting the glass because refusing felt more dangerous than accepting. "You don't like crowds." Not a question. He leaned against the railing beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. "You kept your back to the wall all night. Old habit?" My fingers tightened on the glass. "Is that a problem?" "No." He took a slow sip, his eyes on the dark gardens, just interesting. "Most women who attend my mother's dinners are performing, smiling too much, laughing too loud, making sure everyone knows they're here. You looked like you wanted to disappear. Maybe I did. Then why come? Because your mother is paying me $50,000 to lie to you? Because I'm drowning in debts to men who'll kill me if I don't pay? Because I had no other choice? Your mother invited me," I said instead. It seemed rude to refuse. He laughed, a low, dark sound that raised goosebumps on my arms. "My mother is many things, but she's never just polite. If she invited you, she has a reason. The question is whether you know what it is." I met his eyes, forcing myself to hold that black gaze even as my heart hammered. Does everything have to have a hidden reason? Maybe she just wanted to be kind. "Nothing in my world is kind, Emma." He turned fully toward me, and suddenly the 2 feet between us felt like inches. "Everything has a price. Everyone wants something. You'll learn that soon enough if you stick around." "Maybe I won't stick around. You will." He said it with absolute certainty, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers brushed my cheek, calloused, warm, gone before I could react. Because you're running from something worse than what you'll find here. I can see it in your eyes, that fear that has nothing to do with me." He was too close to the truth. I took a step back, putting space between us, trying to control my breathing. "You don't know anything about me. I know you're lying about being an artist." His smile held no humor. "Your hands are too rough, scarred from work. Manual labor, probably. And your shoes, the ones you wore this morning when you arrived, were medical clogs. So either you're a doctor playing dress-up or you work in a hospital. Which is it?" Ice flooded my veins. He'd seen me arrive. Had paid attention to details I didn't think anyone would notice. "Cleaning staff," I admitted, because lying seemed pointless now. "I scrub floors. Or I did, until yesterday. And now? Now I don't know what I am." The honesty surprised us both. Dante studied me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. The predator scenting uncertainty, maybe, or something else I couldn't name. "My mother told you to lie to me," he said quietly. "About the painting, about your father." "What else did she tell you to lie about?" "Everything." The word escaped before I could stop it. Raw and true. His laugh this time was softer, almost admiring. "At least you're honest about your dishonesty. That's rare." He straightened, draining his cognac in one swallow. "Here's what's going to happen, Emma. You're going to tell me exactly why my mother brought you here. And then I'm going to decide whether to let you stay or have my men escort you off the property. You have 30 seconds. The same time frame Victoria had given me in the cafe. These people dealt in ultimatums the way normal people dealt in pleasantries. "She wants me to pretend to be your fiancé," I said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "To stop some marriage arrangement with the Costello family. She's paying me $50,000 to play the role for a few weeks, to make it look like you're already committed to someone else." Silence. Long enough that I started to shake, certain I'd just signed my own death warrant. Then Dante threw his head back and laughed. Really laughed. The sound echoing across the dark gardens. When he looked at me again, his eyes held something wild and terrifying. "Of course she did." He shook his head, still smiling. "God, she's brilliant. Insane, but brilliant. You're not angry?" "Oh, I'm furious." But he didn't sound it. He sounded delighted. "But not at you. You're just a pawn, aren't you? She found you somewhere, desperate and drowning, and offered you exactly enough money to make you gamble with your life." "Yes," I whispered. "And if I told you to leave right now, where would you go?" "Back to the apartment with the broken lock. Back to the men with questions and fists. Back to a life that was killing me slowly. Nowhere good." "No," he agreed. "Nowhere good." He stepped closer again, and this time I couldn't retreat. The railing was at my back. His hand came up to cup my jaw, tilting my face toward the light spilling from the house. "Here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to stay. You're going to play the role my mother hired you for. But you're going to do it knowing that I know the truth. No more lies between us. Understand?" His thumb brushed across my lower lip. The touch electric and terrifying. "Why?" My voice came out hoarse. "Why keep me here if you know it's fake?" "Because my mother is right about the Costello arrangement. It would be a disaster. And because having a fake fiancé I can control is more useful than a real relationship I can't." His smile turned sharp. "And because you interest me, Emma Chen. You're terrified, but you're not running. You're lying, but you told me the truth when it mattered. I want to see what else you're hiding." Before I could respond, the terrace doors opened. Victoria appeared, her expression serene, though her eyes sharpened when she saw how close Dante stood to me. "There you are," she said lightly. "People are asking for you, darling. And Emma looks cold. Perhaps you should get her a wrap." "Emma's fine." Dante didn't move, didn't stop touching my face. "Aren't you, Cara?" The Italian endearment dripped with irony, but something about hearing it in his rough voice made heat pool in my stomach. "I'm fine," I echoed. "Good." He finally stepped back, his hand falling away and leaving my skin cold. "Then let's give them a show." He took my hand, the first time he'd touched me beyond that brief caress, and led me back inside. His palm was warm, calloused, his grip firm enough to feel possessive. People watched as we entered, their eyes tracking us with the intensity of sharks scenting blood. Dante pulled me close, his arm sliding around my waist in a gesture that looked casual but felt like a brand. He leaned down, his lips brushing my ear as he whispered, "Smile like you love me. Convince them. Because if they don't believe it, this whole house of cards falls apart and you're the one who'll pay the price." I smiled. God help me. I smiled like my life depended on it. Because it did. The party ended past midnight. Guests departed in a steady stream of expensive cars and dangerous promises, each one stopping to congratulate Dante and me with knowing looks. Word had spread through the gathering like wildfire. The Ferrara heir had finally found someone. The alliance with the Costellos was dead before it started. I stood beside Dante in the foyer, playing my role, accepting kisses on both cheeks from women who could order my death with a phone call. His hand never left my waist, his thumb tracing absent patterns against my hip through the silk of my dress. When the last guest finally left, Victoria turned to us with triumph glittering in her eyes. "Perfect," she declared. "Absolutely perfect. Emma, you were magnificent." "She was adequate," Dante corrected, but his tone held a thread of amusement. "Though we'll need to work on her poker face. She looked terrified every time someone asked about our engagement." "We're not engaged," I pointed out weakly. "We are now." He released me finally, stepping away to pour himself a drink from the bar cart. My mother made sure of that. "By morning, every family in the city will know I'm off the market. Congratulations, Emma. You just became the most valuable piece on the board." The words should have felt like victory. Instead, they felt like a noose tightening. Victoria kissed my cheek, squeezing my hand. "Get some rest, dear. Tomorrow, we begin your real education. If you're going to be a Ferrara, even temporarily, you need to learn how to survive in our world." She swept away, leaving me alone with Dante in the cavernous foyer. He swirled his whiskey, watching me over the rim of his glass. "Scared yet?" he asked. "Terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." He drained the glass, set it down with a sharp click. "Go to bed, Emma. Things get more complicated from here." I fled toward the stairs, feeling his eyes on me the whole way. Behind me, I heard him laugh, soft, dark, and utterly without mercy. I'd made a deal with the devil's mother. Now I belonged to the devil himself. Morning arrived with a knock that felt like an invasion. I dragged myself from dreams thick with dark eyes and dangerous smiles to find Mrs. Castellano standing in my doorway, her expression disapproving as she took in my tangled hair and the borrowed nightgown twisted around my body. "Mr. Ferrara requests your presence at breakfast," she announced. "You have 20 minutes." The door closed before I could respond. I stumbled to the bathroom, my reflection a disaster, makeup smudged, lips swollen from anxious chewing, eyes haunted. The girl from last night had vanished, leaving behind the exhausted fraud I actually was. Somehow I made myself presentable in 15 minutes. Simple black pants and a cream sweater from the closet, minimal makeup, hair pulled into a low ponytail. When I descended the stairs, my legs felt like water. Dante sat alone in a breakfast room flooded with morning light, reading something on his phone with an expression of cold concentration. He'd changed from last night's formal wear into dark jeans and a black Henley that clung to his frame, revealing the kind of physique that came from violence, not Jim's. A leather holster crossed his shoulders, gun visible, deliberate. "Sit." He didn't look up, gesturing to the chair beside him rather than across. I sat, hyper-aware of his proximity, of the way he smelled like coffee and something darkly masculine. Staff appeared immediately with food I didn't remember ordering. Espresso, fresh pastries, fruit cut into perfect cubes, eggs prepared exactly how I liked them. How did they... I pay attention. He finally looked at me, those black eyes tracking over my face. "Last night you picked at everything except the fish course. You drank white wine but left the red untouched. You take your coffee black with 1 sugar. Should I continue?" Heat crept up my neck. That's unsettling. That's survival. He set down his phone, giving me his full attention. It felt like standing in a spotlight. In my world, details matter. The wrong drink at the wrong meeting gets people killed. So I notice everything, especially about people who interest me. "I'm a hired actress. I can't possibly interest you." His smile could have cut diamond. "You told me the truth when lying would have been safer. That interests me very much." He reached out, his fingers catching my chin, turning my face toward the light. And you're afraid of me, but you're still here. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably stupid, I whispered. Probably. He released me, returning to his coffee. Eat. We have a busy day. Doing what? Teaching you how to stay alive. He said it casually, like discussing the weather. You're going to be seen with me in public. That makes you a target for every rival family, every ambitious soldier looking to make a name, every enemy I've accumulated in 15 years of running this organization. You need to know how to spot danger, how to move through crowds, how to... I didn't agree to this. The words burst out before I could stop them. Your mother hired me to attend dinners, not to... My mother hired you to play a role. His voice dropped to something dangerous, something that made my survival instincts scream. I'm telling you, the role just got more complicated. You want the 50,000? You earn it. That means learning the rules of my world fast enough that you don't get yourself killed in the process. And if I refuse? The silence stretched like pulled wire. Dante set down his cup with careful precision, the small sound somehow more threatening than a shout. Then you walk out that door right now and I won't stop you. He leaned back, arms crossed, utterly relaxed. But the men who are looking for you, the ones collecting Marcus Reeves's debts, they'll find you by tomorrow. They're very good at their job, and what they'll do to you before they kill you will make anything I could do seem like mercy. My blood turned to ice. How do you know about Marcus? I know everything about you, Emma. He pulled out his phone, swiping through screens before turning it toward me. Photos appeared. My apartment building, the hospital where I worked, my employee badge photo looking young and hopeful. Marcus Reeves, your boyfriend of 2 years, small-time drug dealer who thought he was smarter than he was, borrowed money from the Volkov crew to expand his operation, then got himself arrested before he could pay it back, left you holding a debt of $93,000 that you can't possibly pay. Each word hit like a fist. I couldn't breathe. The Volkovs sent collectors 3 weeks ago, Dante continued, merciless. They'll give you another week, maybe 2 before they escalate, then they'll hurt you in ways that make you wish they'd just killed you, unless I do what you say. The chair scraped as I stood, fury burning through fear. You're blackmailing me. Your mother offered me a choice and you're taking it away. I'm giving you reality. He stood too, closing the distance between us in 2 strides. My mother lives in fantasies where you attend parties and smile, and everything works out perfectly. I live in the world where people die for being stupid. If you're going to wear my ring, fake or not, you do it my way, or not at all. I never agreed to wear your ring. You agreed the moment you took my mother's money. His hand shot out, catching my wrist before I could retreat. Not painful, but inescapable. That money is in your account right now. Check your phone. 25,000 as a deposit. The rest when the job is done. You're bought and paid for, Kara. The only question is whether you're smart enough to survive it. I yanked my arm free, hating the tears burning behind my eyes. I hate you. Good. His smile was all teeth. Hate keeps you sharp too. Now sit down and eat your breakfast. We leave in 30 minutes. For where? Somewhere you'll learn exactly what you've gotten yourself into. The Range Rover that picked us up was military grade. Bulletproof glass, reinforced doors, probably could survive a rocket launcher. 2 security vehicles flanked us, each carrying men with visible weapons and dead eyes. Dante drove himself, which surprised me. His hands were steady on the wheel, movements efficient as he navigated through traffic that parted for our convoy like water. He'd added a shoulder holster over his Henley, the gun sitting against his ribs like it belonged there. Where are we going? I asked again, watching the city change outside the windows. The neighborhood's getting rougher, the buildings more industrial, to see what happens to people who cross me. He said it conversationally, like we were discussing lunch plans. Consider it your first lesson in consequences. Terror clawed up my throat. I don't want to see anyone die. No one's dying today. Relax. He glanced at me, something almost like amusement in his expression. You really do think I'm a monster, aren't you? Yes. No hesitation, no apology. But I'm a monster with rules. I don't kill innocent people. I don't hurt children. I don't traffic in anything that exploits the helpless. Beyond that, he shrugged. I do what needs to be done to protect my family and my business. If that makes me a monster, so be it. We pulled up to a warehouse district, all rusting metal and broken windows. The security detail moved first, sweeping the area before opening Dante's door. He stepped out with the casual confidence of someone who owned every inch of ground he walked on. "Come on." He held out his hand to me. I took it because refusing felt more dangerous. His fingers closed around mine, warm and calloused, and he pulled me close as we walked toward the largest warehouse. The door opened before we reached it. More guards, more guns, more violence waiting just beneath the surface. Inside, the space had been converted into something between a gym and a torture chamber. Boxing rings, weight equipment, and in the far corner, 3 men bound to chairs with duct tape. "Those are the collectors who came after you," Dante said quietly, his breath warm against my ear. "The Volkov crew. Recognize them?" I did. The one on the left had cornered me in the parking garage, his breath sour as he described what they'd do if I didn't pay. The middle one had shown up at my apartment, breaking the lock I couldn't afford to fix, the right one I'd never seen before. But his eyes held the same dead cruelty as his companions. "What are you going to do to them?" My voice came out strangled. "Nothing. You are." He turned me to face him, both hands on my shoulders now. "You're going to tell them that you're under my protection now, that Marcus Reeves's debts died with him, and if they come near you again, they'll answer to me. Can you do that? My throat closed. The men were watching us, recognition dawning in their eyes as they understood who held their leashes now. "Emma." Dante's voice sharpened. "You need to do this. Not because I'm telling you to, but because if you don't, they'll never believe you're mine. They'll see you as weak, as someone they can still hurt. You need to claim your power here, understand?" I didn't understand anything except that I was drowning, and he was the only thing keeping my head above water. I walked toward the bound men on legs that didn't feel like my own. The parking garage man sneered. "Look who got herself a sugar daddy. That's not gonna save you, bitch. You still owe—" "She owes you nothing." Dante's voice cracked across the warehouse like a whip. "The debt is erased. You have a problem with that. You take it up with me." "Volkov won't like this," the apartment man spat. "Then tell Volkov to call me directly." Dante moved to stand behind me, his hands settling on my waist possessively. "This woman is mine. Anyone who touches her, threatens her, or even looks at her wrong answers to me personally. Are we clear?" The words should have made me feel like property. Instead, something twisted in my chest, a strange mix of fear and safety, of being claimed and protected in the same breath. "Say it," Dante murmured against my ear. "Tell them you're mine. Make them believe it." I lifted my chin, forced steel into my spine. "I'm with Dante Ferrara now. Stay away from me." The words felt like power and surrender braided together. Dante pressed a kiss to my temple. Brief, possessive, utterly for show. "Good girl." Then to his men. "Let them go. Send them back to Volkov with the message. Anyone who touches what's mine gets buried." The guards cut the men loose. They stumbled out, fury and fear warring in their expressions. But not one of them looked back at me. I wasn't prey anymore. I was poison. When the warehouse emptied, leaving just Dante and me among the equipment and echoing space, my legs finally gave out. I sank onto a bench, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. "You did well." Dante crouched before me, eye level now, his expression almost gentle. "I know that was terrifying, but you needed to see, needed to understand what protection costs in my world. Those men will spread the word. By tonight, every crew in the city will know you're untouchable. Because I'm yours." Bitterness coated the words. "Because you're smart enough to choose survival over pride." He stood, offering his hand again. "Come on, next lesson." "There's more?" His smile held dark promise. "We're just getting started, Kara." The next stop was a boxing gym in a better part of town. Still rough, but functional. Dante led me to a private room in the back where a woman waited. She was maybe 40, compact and muscled, with scars crossing her knuckles and a gaze that assessed me like a weapon. "This is Katya," Dante said. "She's going to teach you how to fight." "I don't need to know how to fight." "Yes, you do." He was already moving toward the door. 2 hours, every day, until you can at least throw a punch that won't break your thumb. "Katya, be gentle. She's useless if you break her. Wait. But he was gone, the door closing behind him with terrible finality. Katya smiled, all teeth. Don't worry, princess. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. The next 2 hours were agony. She taught me how to stand, how to move, how to hit. My knuckles split on the bag, my shoulders screamed, my lungs burned. Again! Katya barked each time I thought I couldn't continue. Your life depends on this. Again! When Dante returned, I was covered in sweat, bleeding from a split lip where I'd bitten down too hard, every muscle in my body shaking with exhaustion. Better, he said approvingly, tossing me a towel. Same time tomorrow. I can't. You can. You will. He pulled me to my feet, steadying me when I swayed, because the alternative is being helpless. And you're done with that now, aren't you? I was. God help me, I was. Yes, I whispered. His smile was approving, almost proud. That's my girl. The possessive pronoun shouldn't have made my heart skip, but it did. 3 weeks passed in a blur of violence and velvet, of learning how to survive in a world that wanted to break me. Every morning, Katya beat the weakness out of me in the boxing gym. Every afternoon, Victoria taught me which fork to use and which smile to wear. Every evening, Dante took me to dinners and meetings where men with dead eyes assessed me like livestock, trying to find the cracks in our performance. I learned to stand close enough to him that his cologne became familiar, to let his hand rest possessively on my lower back, to laugh at his dry observations and meet his dangerous smiles with ones of my own. I learned the names of his enemies and the faces of his allies. I learned which rooms in the estate were safe, and which doors stayed locked for reasons no one would explain. I learned that Dante Ferrara was both exactly what I'd feared and nothing like I'd expected. He was ruthless. I watched him destroy a business rival with 3 phone calls and a smile that never reached his eyes. He was violent. I saw the bruises on his knuckles after a meeting that went badly, saw the cold satisfaction in his expression when he returned. But he was also careful with me in ways that made no sense. He never raised his voice, never touched me roughly except in public when the act demanded it. And every night, he asked the same question before I retreated to my room. Are you okay? As if my answer mattered, as if I was more than just a bought performance. The ring appeared on the 4th week. I woke to find a velvet box on my breakfast tray, the morning sun making it glow like a promise or a threat. Inside sat a diamond that could have funded a hospital wing, emerald cut, flawless, set in platinum with smaller stones circling it like worshippers around a shrine. Do you like it? Dante's voice came from the doorway. He leaned against the frame in worn jeans and a t-shirt, looking too casual for a man who'd probably killed someone yesterday. It's terrifying, I admitted, staring at the ring like it might bite. Good answer. He crossed the room, taking the box from my trembling hands. We're going public today, lunch at Cipriani, where everyone who matters will see us. You'll wear this, and I'll make sure every photographer in the city captures it. Why now? Because the Costellos are getting desperate. He removed the ring, reaching for my left hand. I let him take it, watched his scarred fingers slide the platinum band onto mine. It fit perfectly, because of course it did. He noticed everything. Their daughter was supposed to marry me, merge our territories. Instead, I'm engaged to a nobody from nowhere. It's an insult they can't ignore, so they'll come after me, not a question. I'd learned enough to know how this worked. They'll try. His thumb brushed across the ring, the gesture almost tender. But I don't lose what's mine, Emma. Fake or not, you wear my ring. That makes you untouchable. The word echoed what he'd told the Volkov collectors, but something in his voice made it sound different now. More real. More dangerous. We should get ready, I said, pulling my hand back. The ring felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Can't keep the photographers waiting. His eyes narrowed, reading something in my expression I didn't want him to see. You're getting good at this. Almost like you're not pretending anymore. Everything's pretending, I said. But we both knew it was a lie. Cipriani was exactly the kind of place where power lunched, all marble and mahogany, with prices that required asking and service so attentive it felt like surveillance. We arrived in the Rolls-Royce, security trailing at a discreet distance, and the maitre d' practically genuflected as he led us to a corner table that put us on display while protecting Dante's back. The ring caught every light in the room, impossible to miss. Within minutes, phones appeared at nearby tables, not to call, but to photograph. By the time our water arrived, Ferrara engaged was probably trending. Smile, Dante murmured, reaching across the table to take my hand. Look besotted. You're madly in love with me, remember? Hard to forget when you remind me every 5 minutes. His laugh was genuine, warm enough that several nearby diners glanced over. There she is, the real Emma, not the terrified girl from the cafe. I was wondering when she'd show up. Maybe she's been here all along and you just weren't paying attention. Oh, I'm always paying attention to you, Kara. His thumb traced circles on my palm, the touch sending electricity up my arm. Every time you bite your lip when you're nervous. Every time you touch your neck when you lie. Every time you look at me like you can't decide if you want to kiss me or kill me. Heat flooded my face. I don't. You do. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to something intimate, meant only for me despite the watching crowd. And here's the thing that terrifies you, Emma. I look at you the same way. Before I could respond, a commotion at the entrance shattered the moment. 3 men strode in, expensive suits, cold eyes, radiating threat. The restaurant fell silent, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. Costello, Dante said quietly, his entire demeanor shifting. The warmth vanished, replaced by something predatory, right on schedule. Dante. I gripped his hand, fear spiking through me. What do we do? We finish our lunch. He raised his voice, addressing the approaching men with casual disdain. Gentlemen, you're interrupting a private moment. I suggest you leave before you embarrass yourselves. The lead man, silver-haired, distinguished, with a smile like a shark, stopped at our table. Ferrara, I wanted to congratulate you personally. Such a surprising engagement. Surprising? Dante's smile could have cut glass. Only to people who assumed they had a claim on my future. Emma, this is Antonio Costello. Antonio, my fiancé, Emma Chen. Antonio's eyes raked over me, assessing and dismissing in one glance. A cleaning woman. How democratic of you. The insult landed like a slap. Beside me, I felt Dante tense, violence coiling in his frame. Careful, Antonio. His voice dropped to a lethal whisper. That's my future wife you're insulting. I'd hate for this conversation to end with your associates carrying you out. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Dante stood smoothly, positioning himself between Antonio and me. Even seated, I could feel the danger radiating off him like heat. You had your chance to ally with my family. You wanted merger through marriage. I'm giving you a different answer. Accept it gracefully, or prepare for the alternative. The 2 men locked eyes, and I understood I was watching something primal. Alphas circling, testing boundaries, deciding whether to fight or flee. Antonio broke first. His smile turned brittle. She better be worth starting a war over, Ferrara. Try me and find out. The Costello men retreated, but not before Antonio's gaze found mine one last time. The promise in his eyes made my blood freeze. This wasn't over. Not even close. Dante sat back down, his hand finding mine across the table. Breathe, Emma. You're safe. He's going to come after me, isn't he? He's going to try. Dante's grip tightened. Let him. I've been waiting for an excuse to end the Costellos for years. If they're stupid enough to give me one, I'll burn their entire organization to the ground. The casual brutality should have horrified me. Instead, I felt something warm and terrible unfurl in my chest. Protection. Possession. The promise that nothing would hurt me while I wore his ring. Thank you, I whispered. His expression softened fractionally. Don't thank me yet. This just made everything more complicated. That night, Victoria summoned us both to her private study, a room I'd never been allowed to enter before. She sat behind a mahogany desk that had probably witnessed decades of criminal conspiracy, her expression grave. The Costellos made their move, she said without preamble. They've approached 3 of our allied families, offering better terms if they withdraw support for the engagement. They're trying to isolate us. Let them try. Dante paced like a caged predator, all restless energy. We have stronger alliances. They're bluffing. They're desperate. Victoria's gaze moved to me, which makes them dangerous. Emma, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Are you prepared for what comes next? Because this arrangement, this fake engagement, it's becoming very real, very fast. People will try to hurt you to get to Dante. They'll use you as leverage, as a weapon. Can you handle that? Could I? A month ago, I was scrubbing hospital floors, running from debt collectors, drowning slowly in a life I couldn't escape. Now I wore a diamond worth more than I'd earn in a lifetime, sat in strategy meetings about gang politics, and trained daily to survive assassination attempts. I don't know, I admitted. But I'm still here. That has to count for something. Victoria smiled, genuinely smiled, not the calculated expression she wore for others. It counts for everything, dear. Dante, you should tell her. Tell me what? I looked between them, dread pooling in my stomach. Dante stopped pacing, turning to face me with an expression I'd never seen before. Vulnerable, almost uncertain. My mother didn't find you by accident in that cafe, he said quietly. She'd been watching you for 2 weeks. Ever since Marcus Reeves died in police custody and left you drowning in his debts. The room tilted. Marcus is dead? Overdose. 3 weeks before my mother approached you. Dante moved closer, his voice gentle in a way that made my chest ache. She knew about the Volkov collectors, knew you were desperate. But she also knew something else. Marcus Reeves stole from me, Emma. He was one of my low-level dealers who decided to skim product and money. I was planning to handle him personally when he got himself arrested. So this whole thing... My voice broke. You were what? Getting revenge on me for what Marcus did? No. He crouched before my chair, eye level now, his hands finding mine. My mother brought you into this to save her son from a bad marriage. But I kept you here for a completely different reason. Because the first time I saw you, really saw you, not just the girl in the expensive dress, I saw someone fighting to survive. Someone who refused to break even when everything told them to give up. Someone who reminded me of myself. Before this life hardened all the soft edges. Dante, let me finish. His grip tightened. This started as theater. A performance to fool my enemies and protect my family, but somewhere between teaching you to fight and watching you navigate my world without losing who you are, it stopped being fake. At least for me. My heart hammered against my ribs. What are you saying? I'm saying the ring on your finger isn't pretend anymore. I'm saying I want you to stay. Not as a hired actress, but as my actual fiancée. My future wife. My partner. He lifted my hand, pressing a kiss to the diamond. I'm saying I'm falling for you, Emma Chen, and I need to know if there's any chance you feel the same. The confession hung between us like a live wire. Every instinct I'd honed over the past month screamed that this was dangerous, that loving a man like Dante Ferrara was signing my own death warrant, that I should run as far and fast as possible. But when I looked into those dark eyes, I didn't see the monster anymore. I saw the man who'd taught me to be strong, who'd protected me even when I was just a transaction, who'd asked if I was okay every single night, like my answer mattered more than anything. You're insane, I whispered. Probably. His smile was crooked, almost boyish. Is that a yes or a no? It's a, you're insane, and so am I, because yes, I feel the same. And that terrifies me more than anything the Costellos could do. And the words rushed out in a breathless tumble. And then he was kissing me, really kissing me. Not for show or for cameras, but because we both needed it more than air. His hands cupped my face like I was precious, breakable, worth protecting. I kissed him back with everything I'd been holding inside for weeks. All the fear and longing and desperate hope braided together. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Victoria was smiling. Well, she said dryly. I suppose we'll need to plan an actual wedding now. 6 months later, I stood in a garden blooming with impossible flowers, wearing a dress that cost more than my old life, surrounded by people who could order deaths between courses. The sun broke through clouds that had threatened rain all morning, turning everything golden and surreal. Dante waited for me at an altar woven from white roses and Italian cypress. He wore a tuxedo that fit like sin, his dark hair swept back, and when he saw me walking toward him, his expression cracked open into something raw and real. I still trained with Katya every morning, still attended Victoria's etiquette lessons, still learned the names of enemies and the faces of friends. But now I did it as Emma Ferrara, not Emma Chen, the cleaning woman playing dress-up. The Costellos had tried once to make good on Antonio's threat. They'd sent men after me outside a charity gala. Dante had put 3 of them in the hospital, and the rest in the ground. The message was received. No one touched what belonged to Dante Ferrara. As I reached him, he took my hands, and I felt the calluses we'd both earned. Mine from boxing, his from holding power through force. We were a matched set of beautiful violence, of survival against impossible odds. "You look terrified," he murmured, echoing words from another lifetime. "Good," I replied, using his own philosophy against him. "Fear keeps me sharp." His laugh was low and warm, meant only for me. "That's my girl." The ceremony blurred, words in English and Italian, promises that felt both sacred and dangerous, rings that marked us as permanently, irrevocably bound. When the priest finally told Dante to kiss his bride, he pulled me close with a possessiveness that would never soften, would never apologize for claiming me completely. "Mine," he whispered against my lips. "Yours," I agreed. "But you're mine too. Don't forget it." "Never, cara mia, never." We kissed while our combined families, blood and chosen, legal and criminal, erupted in applause. Somewhere in the crowd, Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, probably already planning how to use this union to expand the family's reach. But for this moment, this one perfect moment, I let myself forget about territories and alliances, and the violence that would always shadow our lives. For now, there was only Dante's arms around me, his heart beating against mine, and the impossible truth that I'd walked into a cafe drowning and emerged engaged to the most dangerous man in the city. The reception lasted until dawn. We danced until my feet ached, ate food I didn't taste, accepted congratulations from people who'd kill us if circumstances changed, and when Dante finally pulled me away, sneaking us out through a side garden while everyone else was distracted, I went willingly. "Where are we going?" I asked, laughing as he tugged me toward the waiting car. "Away." He opened the door, bundled me inside. "Somewhere no one can find us for at least a week. Somewhere I can have you all to myself without my mother scheduling our every breath." Scandalous. But I was already leaning into him, already letting his warmth erase the last of my fear. He kissed my temple, my cheek, finally my lips. "You regret this yet?" I thought about the girl in the cafe, alone with cheap tea and cheaper dreams, thought about the path that had led from scrubbing hospital floors to wearing diamonds and a wedding dress. Thought about all the ways this could go wrong, all the dangers that waited outside our temporary sanctuary. "Not even a little," I said honestly. "Good." His smile was pure wickedness and pure devotion braided together. "Because you're stuck with me now, Mrs. Ferrara. No returns, no refunds. I'll take my chances." The car pulled away from the estate as the first rays of true morning broke across the horizon. Behind us, our wedding slowly wound down, a celebration of alliance and power and criminal enterprise disguised as love. But inside this car, wrapped in Dante's arms with his ring on my finger and his promises in my heart, it wasn't disguised at all. It was real. Terrifying and dangerous, and absolutely real. And I wouldn't have changed a single moment. The rain that had threatened all day finally began to fall, soft and gentle, washing away the girl I'd been and baptizing the woman I'd become. Dante pulled me closer, murmuring Italian endearments I was slowly learning, promising protection and possession in the same breath. I closed my eyes and let myself believe in fairy tales, the dark kind, where the princess saves herself and claims the monster as her own, where happily ever after comes with a body count, and the knowledge that love in this world is fought for, bled for, survived. We drove into the morning, leaving behind everything except each other. It was enough. It was everything.